there is no denying right now that there is more time behind me than in front of me, and time is ticking. So the idea of zestful aging to me is really living without regrets, doing things that are a bit of a challenge for me, and hopefully contributing to the greater good and leaving some kind of positive legacy.
Welcome to Onward Live, a live stream focused on encouraging you to create a life you love living now. Let's go beyond success to significance. Being clear on our why is crucial. It requires doing the inner work, finding ourselves, getting to know ourselves, embracing our inner child, shedding social conditioning, and letting go of perfect. We know obstacles make us stronger. We can dream big and take action. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. I invite you to tune in every week and engage with me and my inspiring guests. Invite your friends. Let's make time for what matters most in our lives. Let's move onward together. Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Harmon. I'm the host of this Onward Live show. The reason I want to help everybody create a life that they love living is because I all of a sudden woke up one day and I'm like, what happened is my former husband, my children's father, passed away. And I realized he was not living a life that he loved living at the time. He was waiting for retirement to happen or this to happen or that to happen. And that's why I said, now, what can you do today to create a life that we love living? And I think part of that is as we're aging, I used to think that a lieutenant in the Navy was old. They're about like 25 years old. So now that I'm 58, I think that 58 is kind of young too. So as we're aging, how do we age zestfully? And my guest, Nicole Christina, is going to be talking about that. There she is. We're going to be talking about Zestful Aging. Nicole Christina walks the walk. So let me bring Nicole Christina in. Let's see. There she is. Hi.
Hey,
Welcome.
thank you.
I got this little thing I'll put here too, where you can see both of our faces, and you can see the title. So it's pretty cool. You've been a psychotherapist for over 30 years, and you specialize in eating disorders and food issues. And you have a Zestful Aging podcast too, where you help people reframe aging as a time of great opportunity and growth.
I try.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here. So welcome. And
thank you.
What does aging mean to you, and what does zestful aging mean to you?
Well, that's a great question. I think zestful means different things to different people. For me, it means pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And let me give you a couple of examples of this. And I have friends that are teasing me about doing this, but next month I'm going to the Everglades to do a 5-day kayak, and that involves some, dangerous animals. There are both crocodiles and alligators. It's the only place they exist together in nature. And it's not particularly dangerous, but I'm getting a lot of ribbing about keeping my limbs in the kayak. I'm really excited about doing that, a little bit nervous, but that's kind of what makes it exciting. And I'm going to be playing tennis in the National Senior Games this spring in Fort Lauderdale. And I am a competent player, but let me put it this way. I booked my flight before the final match because I will not be in that final match. If I win a game, I will be screaming from the hilltops. I'll be so excited. For me, it's really meeting so many of the people who participate in the National Senior Games and getting to walk around Fort Lauderdale and try Cuban food and do some bird watching. So again, pushing myself out of my comfort zone because truth be told, I'm going alone. I'll be there for several days. And there will be times when I'm probably going to be a little lonely and disoriented and miss my family and my puppies and think I'd rather be home right now. But there's something about really, sort of pushing myself to do things that I know in the end will help me live a life without regrets. I just recently turned 60, and for me, it's just been, I've been talking about this, thinking about it, researching a lot, but for me, it's like there is no denying right now that there is more time behind me than in front of me, and time is ticking. So the idea of zestful aging to me is really living without regrets, doing things that are a bit of a challenge for me, and hopefully contributing to the greater good and leaving some kind of positive legacy.
I love that because, that's what happened right after I retired. And I found out my former husband was sick with cancer and he passed away 5 months later and he was 64. And, I've got his files here and they had like 3 files on retirement. He would always send me different things about saving for retirement and stuff like that. And he didn't really get to enjoy his savings in that way. And he didn't really take a lot of trips. And, I saw him when he was really sick, spending a lot of time in his head thinking. And, he wasn't one to share what he was thinking really, but I can just assume that he was thinking, I could have done this and I could have done that. And I wish I had gone out on my boat more. He was always somebody who was buying a boat, but then he hardly ever went out on it. So, yeah.
I like many women have been through cancer and in full recovery. That was 15 years ago. But I think when you have these wake up calls like, you know what, this party is not going to last forever, there's ways that you really have to answer the call. In my mind, I just don't want to be on my deathbed saying, I should have taken that tennis lesson. I should have gone on that trip. But it can be even like today. I live in upstate New York and we just got a pretty good snowfall and it's been chilly. But, there's something about walking in deep snow that's great exercise. I brought face covering because we all have all of these, outfits for the weather. And I went out with my dog and it felt like it, I wouldn't say it was, a big challenge, but it sure would have been easier to stay home in my toasty house,
Right.
knitting or watching, in the middle of doing a training for my therapy practice, or, there's a lot of stuff I could have done. But I think that there's something about sort of saying, yes, I'm going to do that, even though it might be a little chilly. And, I don't think we regret much saying yes. It's really the no, I don't think so that gets us into trouble.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's like, to me, creating a life you love living doesn't, for me, and it's different for everybody, but it doesn't mean I'm going on this trip and then that trip and then this trip and then that trip. Part of it is just what you said. I'm going to enjoy the snow today.
Yes, that's exactly right. Because, like, I want to. Not everyone can afford to fly to Florida and go with the guy. I mean, I did it on my credit card points, but that's, I don't want to make it be like you have to go to Paris and then when you're down there, you got to go. That's not really what it's about. I think it's really more saying yes to life. And even if it's a little bit out of your comfort zone. Here's just a silly example. I have a friend, and we sometimes go to a knitting group together, and we have a lot of fun. She's another psychotherapist, and she saw a class in our library that I think it was like $5, and it was doing this particular craft. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a really, I guess it's an ancient craft, but you take wool and you take a pin and
Felting.
Yeah.
My mom started it.
Okay. And so you can make these beautiful animals. I mean, they are exquisite. And I was just like doing this thing, and I said, this isn't for me. This is just too I'm going to get like carpal tunnel syndrome here.
Yeah.
This is just like too repetitive. I love the beauty of what people create, but this isn't for me. Okay. So big deal. It was an hour or 2 hours, $5. I tried it, and now I know I'm not a felter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom had to pick up something else because she's doing pottery. She's making pottery. She bought a kiln and all that. But all of a sudden
Wow.
she was having trouble getting clay. And the clay's not here and it's on the truck and it's not being delivered. And it was just got lost or something. So she had to pick up another hobby. So yeah, that's what she did.
They make the most beautiful things. It's
Yeah.
just, for me, I guess it's just not, it doesn't click for me, but you know what? It's fine.
Yeah. Let's just see here who's here visiting with us tonight or watching the show. So
You
we've
got a
got,
lot of comments.
yeah, so Christine Smith, she's the aging enthusiast, and Tim Sowen is here on Facebook. He's the one that said, hey, I thought it was somebody else. And see, we have,
The senior games are back on.
Yeah,
Yay!
yeah, we've got someone say, so Tim said, thank you, Leah, from calling in from or tuning in from Costa Rica. Appreciate you. I guess you didn't get to walk in the snow today.
No.
And yeah, it was nice to talk with you earlier today.
I'm sorry, where do you put your sites on that what is that? Oh, Charlotte.
Oh, I'm putting them right here. You don't have to pay attention to the chat there. I'm putting them at the bottom of the screen.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah. So I'll pull them up and then you don't have to worry about it. So let's see. We've got the senior games are back on. Christine Smith. Where are they being held?
They're being held in Fort Lauderdale, but here's a little story, and it's sort of a Zestful Aging kind of fail in a way. 2 years ago, they were held in Albuquerque, and I went out. And what I didn't know, maybe some of you know, is that Albuquerque is at a very high altitude. And altitude affects tennis balls. And what that means for players is that when the ball comes, the air is thinner, it's moving a lot faster. So essentially, I missed every single ball. I mean, I was ready to go. I was doing my thing, and the ball was already far behind me. So it was so humbling. I might have cried a little bit, but I couldn't hit anything. And they have special balls just for the altitude, which I didn't know. So hopefully I'll do better on the East Coast. But that was tough. Although I will say I had been out there before, but we took some gorgeous hikes and met some really interesting people, ate some great food. And I never, I wouldn't have said, hey, let's go vacation in Albuquerque.
Mm-hmm.
But, it was really, really fun, even though the tennis was abysmal.
So Christine says, is kayaking with crocs and alligators one of your life goals, Tim? I don't know.
It was, yeah. I mean, I've been thinking about it for a while. We kayak a lot. I live in upstate New York, and there's a lot of water around here. Obviously the Finger Lakes and Lake Ontario. So we love to kayak. And I just had that idea because we love animals and wildlife and stuff. So I thought, wouldn't that be fun? And then I got busy looking at my credit card points, and I thought, wow, we could pretty much pay for this whole trip. And so that's what we're going to do.
That's awesome. And D. Baker says, we can all hope we live without regret.
Amen on that. Amen on that. Yep.
Yeah. And then Christine says, Nicole and her tennis competition at the senior games makes me want to go to Fort Lauderdale and do the all-comers walk at least.
Oh, please do. I mean, the thing, when I went, there were 8 centenarians there. So these folks are 100 years old doing their stuff. And there was such a camaraderie. Some of these folks have been, pretty serious athletes in college or, after college. So you see, like, people know what they're doing. But there was so much joy, and there's such a community of, you have to be over 50. So, there's just a real, and it's a very unusual kind of community. And there's just a lot of goodwill, and there's a lot of support, and you just meet fantastic people. I met 2 tennis players at the airport in Chicago last time. And, we stayed in touch. I saw the rackets, and it was just like, hey, are you going? Yeah, and we shared a car, and it just like, again, I'm an extrovert, but it's still they're strangers, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking. So,
Yeah.
got to push yourself. Otherwise, you're going to just be sitting home watching repeats.
Yeah. So Sonia says age is a mindset, and that's true. And then we've got D. Scott Smith tuning in from Oregon. And let's see. Oh, Christine says, when did you put your sights on that competition? Like, how long have you been planning to do this competition with tennis?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, you have to qualify in your state. So I've been doing this for, I guess, about 5 years, and it's really all about the travel because I'm not trying to be, fake humble here. I mean, I'm a competent player, but these people are really fantastic. If I can win a game, I'll be really happy. So it was more about the experience. I think 5 or 6 years ago, I became aware that it was a thing, actually a thing. And I thought, I'd like I'd like to do that and pretend that like kind of a fakey,
Yeah.
professional tennis player because I love the game so much. And so I guess it's about 5 years ago. I was aware it was a thing, and I was able to qualify a couple times. And yeah, so but the real because of COVID, when I went down to qualify, not a lot of people showed up. So it wasn't that I was a superstar; it was that I showed up and I played okay, and I got in.
Well, I'd love for the people watching to put in the comments, what does zestful aging mean to you? And I also want to say that, so when I first retired in 2019, it was a few months after that my former husband well, month later, he got sick and then he passed away. So my initial time was taken up with that. Then COVID hit. And so I spent a lot of time at home, and I'm an introvert actually. And so being at home, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But, I also want to get out. So this year I thought, well, what would I really love? So I do have a trip coming up in February where I'm going to go snowshoeing, hiking, and cross-country skiing in West Virginia.
Oh,
So that's coming up. So I'm
lovely.
looking forward to that. It's like a company that plans these all women trips. So I don't even know. I'm going by myself. I don't even know who else is going. So I'm looking
That's
forward.
great. Good for you.
Yeah.
My hats off to you.
And then I'm also so a couple years ago, I was going to go hike Machu Picchu, and then the trip got delayed for COVID. And now it's happening in April. But now I have that plane ticket, which I spent $1,000. So it expires by March 31st. I've got to travel by March 31st. So I decided I'm going to go to Seattle, visit my roommate from the Naval Academy for a week. And then on the way back, I'm going to go visit my daughter. So that trip's coming up.
Oh.
And so hiking Machu Picchu, and then I've got a few camping trips coming up. But actually, to be honest, all those trips make me a little anxious because I got to leave my dog. I'm used to being at home, and I like being at home. A little bit anxious because it's leaving my comfort zone. I want to do them.
I get it.
That's what you're talking about, is leave your comfort zone, right? And
Yeah.
when I look back, am I going to wish I had gone on some of these trips? Yeah, I will.
I think what you're saying is something I talk a lot about as a therapist, and I guess also with the aging, is that it's always bittersweet. I'd rather be in my own bed. I have really cozy comforter. I've got 2 dogs that cozy up with me, and like no hotel's going to be that cozy. So like there are moments when you're like, look, I just want some homemade food. Don't give me all of the shoes and just give me a nice plate of pasta or something. And there are moments I know that I'll feel homesick. I'm actually going to the games by myself because we will have already gone down to South Florida, and we just didn't want to replicate that. But absolutely sure I'm going to have loneliness, and I'll feel like, oh, I'm all alone eating, but that's kind of part of it. And I know I'll really even appreciate more when I get home and everyone's there to greet me, and I can make food in my own kitchen.
That's a good way to thinking about it. So it is normal that I'm kind of feeling that way, a little
Sure.
anxious. I do love being at home, and it'll make me appreciate being at home more. And it's also getting me out of my comfort zone. It's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everything is mixed. I mean, in my in my mind, even the best things can have a tinge of sadness or loneliness or loss. And even the worst possible things always can have a little bit of a positive element. And that's like ambivalence, that's kind of the state of being human. So I fully expect when I go out there and I see a really cool bird, it's not as fun to see it by yourself,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
there'll be that. Absolutely. And there'll be times when I feel like everyone's in a group except me. I fully expect to have those feelings, but I also am, I have a value in pushing myself and trying to be courageous, even if I'm not feeling that courageous, and no one knows though.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you host a podcast. It's called the Zestful Aging Podcast.
4 years. We're almost 4 years old. In February we'll be 4.
So kind of give an idea of some of the kinds of topics that you cover and maybe your favorite episodes or something like that.
Oh, well, I can tell you about an episode I did today, which was pretty remarkable. I don't know if people have watched the Academy Award winning documentary Free Solo. It's
Mhm.
about a young man who, I still can't even believe he did this. He climbed up El Capitan without ropes. So
Wow.
he is the only one who would do this. It's spectacular and like incredibly dangerous. There's nothing there to catch him. He's just going up what is basically a sheer cliff. So his mom started getting kind of interested in what all the fuss was about. And at 70, she was the oldest woman ever to climb El Capitan. And she had a birthday party on the top. It was dark, but I guess it was the next day. I can't quite remember. They had little bottles of champagne and chocolate. And I spoke with her today. The podcast isn't up yet,
Right.
but I try to talk to people. I'm a clinical social worker, so a lot of my stuff has to do with contributing to the greater good, either by doing some kind of volunteer work or projects. I do a lot of social justice kind of stuff. Some of it is a little hard to hear. Some of it, yeah, I did a thing on human trafficking. I did a thing on opioid crisis.
Mm.
I did a thing about estrangement, parent and child estrangement. But I also do things that, like, climbing up El Cap, as they call it, El Capitan. So my guests are culture changers. They're from all over the world. We're actually heard in 101 countries, which I still can't believe. And they're mostly people who are working for some kind of justice or doing something kind of off the beaten path. One woman that comes to mind, I interviewed 2 years ago, is she's an actress. Her name is Sandra Fish, and she was in the Netflix. It was a series called Sense8. And so she hangs around with some pretty big movie stars, but what she loves to do is go to San Quentin and teach the hospice skills, because many of our inmates, the prison population, is also aging and they're dying, right? And so her contribution is to teach people hospice skills. And this is how she spends her free time. And she says that it's so deeply meaningful and rewarding that she just has no interest in going to like celebrity parties. So that's such a great example of, like, she would be like a great example of a wonderful guest.
Yeah. So Kara says, I'm not yet 40, but my dad's side of the family live into their 90s. For me, zestful aging is owning your potential in your spirituality, community, self-expression, and physical self. And that's something I've enjoyed unraveling little by little. And I don't know if I can get the whole thing in there.
Well said. I love
Yeah.
that. Unraveling your potential.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
And then Barbara Stankowski says she started riding and jumping lessons at age 72. Wow, riding her horse. She loves the horses and riding, and she'll do the first horse show this year, something she's always wanted to do. So you're doing it. Good job, Barbara.
And if
Awesome.
you want to contact me, I'd love to talk to you about being on my show. That's just the kind of thing I love. I'm a big animal fan, if you haven't noticed that already. And I was able to interview the woman who fostered my dog in Texas. And she's in her 70s. She does all the Zumba stuff. And she fosters for one of our major rescue centers in upstate New York. And I had the delightful opportunity to interview her about why she wants to foster dogs.
Love it. I mean, yeah. So Barbara says it's never too late to pursue a dream or passion, for sure. Yeah, Kara
That's
says
so
I'm a
cool.
baby still, but you are aging, Kara. I mean, you're almost 40. We're all aging, right? Even my son who's 28 is aging. He's getting older, so whatever. So yeah. Oh, and Barbara also volunteers at a local animal shelter. My daughter used to do that, and it was challenging for me because she'd always want to bring home a certain dog or cat or whatever.
I bet so.
Let's just go look, Mom. Oh, I can't go look.
You can't look. I mean, for me, it's like, there's no looking. There's only getting.
Yeah. So your role as a psychotherapist, do you cover topics like zestful aging, or is it the eating disorders and stuff like that? Or is it...
Well, it's actually crisscrossed in an interesting way. I live right next to Syracuse University. My office is a mile from Syracuse University. So I see a lot of students and faculty with eating issues, eating disorders, all different kinds of food stuff, bariatric, post-bariatric surgery. And what's happened is, I'm aging and my clients are aging, and they've started asking, what am I doing now? My kids are gone. I'm about ready to retire, or I'm thinking about retiring. I may or may not be partnering because now there's like this gray divorce, right? And it's that what now question. So what's happened is, in my psychotherapy practice, people are asking those same kind of questions, like, who am I? I thought I was like a mom and like a teacher or whatever. Now I'm just this person who has to come to terms with an aging body. Maybe I'm taking care of my parents. Maybe I'm taking care, all these questions that we're very familiar with. So I started realizing that there was a big overlap. And that's one of the things that inspired me to start the podcast, is that I knew there were a lot of women out there. My show caters to women. I knew there were a lot of women out there who were asking the same questions, like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what I like. And so what I've done a lot of reading and looking a lot of data and really trying to understand what all the issues are. And sometimes we have to say, what did you used to like as a kid? That's where we start. And they might say, I used to love to draw. And then we take it from there. What did you draw? What did you love to draw? How about just putting a little bit of a blank drawing pad in your purse now and take it out while you're, that kind of thing. But it really is remarkable how these successful, bright women are really stumped at, what do I do with this next phase of life? I got no idea.
That I agree. I run into that a lot too. That's my target audience too, or client as a coach. And because that was me. I'm 56, I'm retiring. Yes, I'm free to do what I want. What do I want?
Right. It's like, who, you were busy doing your big job, taking care of your kids. No one has the luxury of saying, I just, was thinking maybe I would try to do this kind of sport or this kind of activity, or no one has time for that.
Yeah, you don't. And then when you think, well, for me, I want a podcast. Oh, I can't do that. So our minds can hold us back. we can think of things that we maybe, once we start thinking of things we love to do, we'll be like, well, maybe, no, I can't draw because I'm not a good drawer, right? Whatever, what our
Well,
mind
what
is
I
about.
found, and it's back to the conversation we had a few minutes ago, is, but that's scary. I'm like, yes, it is.
Right.
Like, what about a meetup? We have different, all towns do, and there's some really cool ones here. And I said, well, what do you think about this? Well, I won't know anybody, right?
Right. So let's see. Christine says, Zestful Aging, kindly catch myself thinking I could have done that. I used to be able, I just do what I can. I surprise myself, celebrate other top demographic people who get their adventure on too. Yeah. And I like that, kindly catch myself thinking instead of beating yourself up, Christine.
And watch what you're believing. Our society, that's no secret, is saying, once you get your first wrinkle, you're done. You have a shelf life, right? And so really watch what, and we're marinating in all of this, like, you better get that wrinkle cream, otherwise no one's going to want to be next to you. And so we really have to, I think, be very good consumers and think, well, what's your agenda here? Is this good for me or is this good for you?
Yeah, that's right. D. Scott says he celebrated his 30th anniversary of his 30th birthday. I sent a video for that, D. Scott, but I guess it didn't get sent. It didn't go through. And so anyway, I want you to know I did record you a video. Kara says, I'm actually loving the white hairs. Oh yeah, me too. I wish my hair was grayer. It's not, I wouldn't mind having more gray. I don't have time.
Nor would I.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing. I used to dye my hair, and now I'm like, first of all, it's not good for you. Those dyes are really strong. It's expensive. And like, you have to sit there. I'm like, I've got so much more interesting stuff to do.
Yeah. A lot of people grew their hair out during COVID, which is kind of cool. I know my roommate from college did. Her hair was down to here, and it started to be gray, and then half gray, and now she's got it. It's all gray, and it looks awesome on her. It's just
there's something really beautiful about women who are not trying to fight their age. They're just like, this is what I am, and it works for me. I think there's something really sad when people are so trying to pretend that they're not the age they are. It just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. It does not. So yeah. Oh, Inger's here. Hi, Inger. Oh, wait, that was somebody that I missed your comment. Inger says, I love gray, Emily. Yeah, I do too. And Kara says, my favorite ladies who zestfully age are the ones who are told they can't do something because of their age and not their ability. And they say, hold my wine.
I love that.
There is an older woman who's an influencer on Instagram. I don't remember her name, but have you heard her or seen her? She like dresses to the tilt.
Oh, yes. It's something aging, but there's a few of them.
Yeah.
I don't go on Instagram because I'm already, trying to control my scrolling. I find that, I can just go down that Facebook thing, and oh my goodness. I do get some guests from social media, but the Instagram is one that I've been able to avoid so far.
Yeah. So, you also wrote a book, which I'm just going to admit to the audience right now that your book makes me a little nervous, because her book is not just chatting. It's how to become a master podcast interviewer. So I'm interviewing somebody who's been a podcast host for a long time, and she knows all the tips about how to be a master podcast.
Well, I don't know, if there's so much tips. I think that you already do some of the stuff intuitively. I took it from my years of interviewing clients and, just trying to, and I also did some research, but the idea is to listen, obviously, and sort of draw people out. What I found to be very interesting is I would watch interviewers like Letterman, even Oprah, different people, and they would like change the subjects really fast. And I'm like, this person looks like they're about ready to cry. It's obviously really important to them. Why are you changing the subject? So, there are things like that that I've learned from being a therapist and just trying to study what makes a good interview. And it's a very short book, actually, but I thought it would be fun to put it out there. And what's been nice is I've been able to go to different conferences, and it's just sort of a nice lead in, and people, will invite you to talk. And so that kind of helps the podcast get out in the world a little bit.
Do you have it on Amazon?
It is, yep.
D. Scott Smith is saying, let's go live on Amazon and promote your book. He interviews people on Amazon Live. So you guys need to connect.
I did not even know there was such a thing. Yeah, it's called Not Just Chatting, How to Become a Master Podcast Interviewer. And, I when I was starting to do podcasting, I would listen to interviews and I'd be like, you're talking a lot and not really listening to your guest. And a lot of them were younger. And the other thing is, like, there may not be any focus, right? You're sort of shooting the breeze, which I guess is interesting to some people, not that interesting, to me, but like, you have to have a reason and some kind of theme. It's not just like, you're having a coffee and just talking about anything and everything. So those are some of the things that I noticed. Also, only have people on that you're interested in, then you don't have to fake it, right? I mean, there's a lot of people who would love to be interviewed. Don't interview someone who you're not that interested in.
Yeah. So, one of the things, you're right. I guess I shouldn't have you on the show. No, I'm just kidding. I'm teasing you. But one of the things that I do is when people sign up to be on my podcast, I ask, what are the main points you want to convey? So one of your main points was how to be a zestful ager, but the other one was why it's important to think about your legacy.
Right. The thing about legacy is it goes back to some of the science and the research on aging, and that is people who feel as though they're leaving something for the next generation. So they're doing something that will never be enjoyed by them. Here's a little example: planting trees, right? I can go plant 100 trees in Syracuse. I'm never going to enjoy a full size tree because I won't be here to enjoy that. But when people leave behind a legacy, they feel better about aging, and it helps them feel vital. It helps them feel like their life has meant something. And so there's a deep satisfaction. It's not the kind of like, yippee, crazy stuff like when you first get your driver's license, or like whatever, big, go to the prom or whatever, It's not a jumping up and down feeling. It's more of a peace with yourself, a deep, deep sense of satisfaction and contentment. Like, you know what? My life has meant something. Maybe I didn't, cure COVID. Maybe I didn't bring peace to the Middle East, but I did the things that I could. And what research shows us is that leaving a legacy, however small, really helps us age in a beautiful way.
Wow. So what is your legacy? What do you want?
Certainly my psychotherapy practice. I've met with, I guess by now, thousands of people, and really take that very seriously. It's a huge honor. It's a huge responsibility. That would be, I think, a piece of the legacy. But the other legacy, I think, is my podcast, where I feel like I really want to share optimism about aging. I want to bring some guests in, which I have, that talk about resilience and talk about mental health issues that, that's near and dear to my heart as a psychotherapist. And, it's so satisfying to see people like I saw a download and I thought, what the heck is GI? I have no idea. I had to look it up. It was the Guernsey Islands, which are some islands north of England. Maybe people are familiar. There's 60,000 people who live there. 3 of them listen to Zestful Aging.
Oh,
And I'm like,
wow.
who told you about my podcast? This is just bizarre. But like, there's something about knowing that people are listening and that I'm hoping to share information that makes people feel better and more optimistic and hopeful. So I think that's certainly part of my legacy.
I get that. I mean, I too can go on my podcast on Lisbon is where where I stream it or whatever. And I can
Mhm.
see where people are watching from. And sometimes at the end of the show, in fact, if you're listening now, because this will be published as a podcast, who are you? Where are you listening from? Reach
Yes.
out to me. Go to my website, schedule a meeting. Tell me what you message me. Tell me what you like about the show. Because
Yeah.
people can leave a comment on Apple Podcasts, but they have all these nicknames, their little username, and you don't know
Yeah.
who it is.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah. So let's see. Oh, D. Scott is posting a blog that he wrote back in 2012 asking if I would get involved in a long-term project where I would not receive benefit, maybe not my children or even my grandchildren. I used the Cathedral of Notre Dame as the basis. So he wrote a blog. That'd be fun to go back and look in the
Wow.
comments later and read about that. Yeah. Yeah, because it's a legacy, and we may not see it all come to fruition, but we definitely want people to remember us. And I can just tell my dad, Saturday he's turning 88, and my mom's 78, and I can tell my dad sometimes. I can tell just from conversations with him that he's thinking about his legacy. But I'll tell you what, he's 88. He was 86. He started taking piano lessons. So he's just still going. My mom is 78. She walks about 7 or 8 miles a day. She lifts weights. She does P90X. She's crazy.
Oh.
And she does pottery. And, my parents are definitely zestfully aging. They read. They're
alive.
Yeah. They don't have a TV. They don't sit and watch TV. They're out. You know what? My dad's biggest complaint, maybe you know how to fix this, Nicole Christina, is he needs more hours in the day.
Oh, my goodness.
He's looking for a place he could move where he could find more hours in the day.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
You know what I've heard too? I haven't done this exactly. I guess in some little ways I have, but people talk about mentoring as a really lovely way to leave a legacy, is passing on what you know to younger generations. And that's something that brings deep satisfaction to the older person. And so I just put that out there. If there's something that you know about, there's something that you can share. People talk about that as being a very rich experience. And I'm sure you've heard of this whole intergenerational relationships being extremely beneficial for both the younger and the older person.
Right. Yeah. And it would seem now that there's so many people that need that mentoring with COVID. I just feel for all these kids that have, 3 school years that they've gone through, and just the challenges of parents trying to raise kids that way. That's but COVID kind of holds you back because the older people are even more susceptible to getting it. Right. So the mentoring, I guess it could be done by Zoom and stuff, but yeah. Wow. So what other tips do you have for aging zestfully?
Well, what we know from research is that, you can drink all the kale smoothies in the world and do all the exercises and the yoga, but so much of what keeps us healthy is our relationships. We're mammals, and, our whole thing is to be in a pod or a tribe. And it's not just inconvenient if we're not in a a tribe, it's really deadly. I mean, if you think of evolution, you got to be part of that group, and that's how we're hardwired. So that's become very challenging during COVID, obviously, and we're seeing a lot of addiction increase, a lot of suicide increase, just all kinds of grief coming out in different ways. So you have to be more creative in where you find your people. They don't have to be, it doesn't have to be best friend, best friend, best friend. And let me tell you all my dark secrets. It could even be like where, there's a bagel place near me, and I always see these retired folks, and they're all from all different walks of life, but they meet there, you know, regularly, and they're just having the time of their lives. If you're gonna like have a group that walks together, or it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be super intense, but what it does have to feel like that you belong. And I gave this example a long time ago, back to dogs. You'll have to forgive me, but there's a soccer field near my house, and people get together, and they're all different ages, like they're grad students, there's faculty, there's just regular neighbors, their kids, and they bring their dogs to play. It doesn't always work out as well as we would hope, but they meet regularly, they know each other. Most of the time they know each other's dogs' names more, but they know that that's a regular thing. They're part of a group. And that's very important for our mental and our physical health. So I guess what I would say is, in whatever way you can, and you have to be super creative these days. I actually had a guest who did something really clever. She's a dietitian, and she did a soup club. So every week she would put out a recipe. People would get the ingredients and then all go on Zoom together and make the soup together. So they had a soup club.
That's fun. Yeah.
And I thought, wow, how clever that is, because she's teaching, some really nice cooking skills about how to eat well. But people know each other now a little bit, and they know what to expect, and they know that they're part of the group. So I think that if you really want to look at the research, that is sort of the number one goal that you'd want to look at seriously.
That's interesting. I see there's a lot of people that are here watching. There's quite a few live shows that have really popped up during COVID too. And, some of the people here like D. Scott Smith, Tim Sowen, Kara, Inger, they have live shows too. And so everyone kind of shows up for each other's live show, and we've kind of created a community.
That's it.
And that's a fun way. I mean, like I don't feel alone, even though I live alone with my dog. I don't feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is, once this one guy, Brian Schulman, came out east. He lives in California. He came out east and he met up with Tim Sowen. And there's a woman that's a friend of theirs too, Nancy Barrows, who lives out in the San Diego area. She couldn't make the trip. So what they did is they just had her on the phone, on the webcam on the phone the whole time, wherever they went. They took her to lunch. And she was there with them.
Oh my gosh, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
That is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
I have a knitting group, and we're really different. We have different jobs, we have different lives, but there's something about just sitting all together and knitting and just kind of talking about stuff that's not even that deep, that just feels like a shot of goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. Barbara says that she mentors many small business CEOs, especially women and veterans, and it's very rewarding to watch them succeed.
That's lovely. Thank you for doing that.
And that's leaving a legacy, right? You're helping them, their business succeed and all of that. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Well, when is your tennis trip?
It is in the middle of May. I think it starts the 17th. And I'm nervous. I'm really nervous because, a lot of it is mental, right? I mean, we all know how to hit the ball. The question is like, who's going to stay focused? We'll see what happens. Usually I make some buddies, and I try to use my sense of humor. I'm also going to bring a microphone and see how I can interview some of the folks down there because, you want to find some zestful agers. That's like, the best place to find them. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to approach people. I don't want to be kind of bothering them if they're
Right.
trying to get into their sport or whatever. So I'm just trying to figure out a way to approach them and say, "Hey, I'm also a podcaster, and would you mind answering a few questions?" and sort of see what that might look like. I'm also thinking of doing a Facebook Live down there, and I haven't
Yeah,
done that for a while. So I've got some work ahead of me.
yeah, that's a good idea. I forgot your story about why you started the podcast 4 years ago. Like something happened that made you decide.
I think what happened was, as I said, I was talking to clients who were asking similar questions that
Oh,
I
so
was asking,
yeah,
and I thought,
okay.
I think we're onto something here. And I had a tech person helping me because I put some courses online. One was Zestful Aging, and the other was mindful eating. And he said, I think you would really like podcasting because you really like to talk to people and. So the next day I went to a friend's house who had done a retreat with me. We organized it together on fly fishing and meditation. And she does a lot of work. She's a guide, and she does a lot of work with breast cancer survivors that are post treatment and really trying to get their lives back. And she takes them on these beautiful streams and teaches them how to fly fish, and she's a great talker. So I went over there just with my little laptop, no fancy equipment. I think I just recorded on GarageBand. I didn't have a mic, and I thought once she started talking about what it means to her to volunteer and get older and retire and why she wants to be with people who are it was like I was bitten, and I just thought I got to do more of this, and that's
That's
that's how
awesome.
it went. Yeah.
Podcasting is so fun. I have learned so much from every single one of the guests that I've interviewed. I just love it, and I look forward to it, and it's exciting. And
It's so awesome. It's funny because when I was writing my book, I was talking about how, like, if you talk to podcasters, they talk about their podcast like they're their children. They're like, let me tell you about everyone adores their own podcast. And it's hard to explain, I guess, unless you do it. But it's like your baby. It's like, this is my thing. And I agree with you. It just brings so much joy and enrichment. I never imagined that, it's really life changing.
it really is. It really is. I think I'm close to, I want to say like 170 or something like that episodes.
That's a
You know,
lot.
so
That's a
yeah, it is.
lot.
It
And you
is
have
a
to
lot.
show up. And sometimes, you're like, oh, maybe I'm a little tired tonight, or maybe I want to go, whatever. So there is this part of like, you've got to show up and do what you tell your audience you're going to do. Yeah. So there's that commitment, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But I love it. So I just want to say thank you for being on my show, and thank you to everybody who commented and watched. I don't know if you have time, Nicole, but what I do is usually the next day or maybe tonight, go in and just respond to some of the comments because we didn't get
Mhm.
to cover them all. But and then you can connect with some of the viewers because like D Scott, he wants to interview you and
Yeah, and please reach out. You can find me at zestfulaging.com. And if you have ideas about guests or, whatever, I'd love to hear from you. I'm really interested in hearing from people who want to know more about the subject.
yeah. Thank you so much. I'm going to put you in the green room for just a
Thank
minute. Oh,
you.
wait, see, there's a few more chats here. Let's see if I missed something. No, yeah, Barbara says, thank you for a nice night, nicely done. And Christine says, we are relational animals. Thank you, Emily and Nicole. You have zestfully connected with all of our.
Oh,
You're welcome. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you. So I'll put you in the green room for just a
thank
minute.
you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I really appreciate you guys showing up and commenting in the comments. And I'm actually going live again this week. This is my second time this week. And usually I'm just live on Wednesday nights at 7:30. But I'm going live on Friday with Mariah Eddington. I think that's how I pronounced her name right. And Byron, her husband. And we're talking about a book that they have coming out about just living joyfully. So I hope that you can join us. That is at 3:00 Eastern on Friday. That's a special episode. And I wanted to say too that there's one more night tonight. You can enroll in my mental fitness coaching program, which helps you create a life you love living. I think I've talked about that a lot on the show, where it just really transformed my life to help me to be more in the moment. And that is really something that has helped me create a life I love living. So thank you all for watching. I'm going to play my outro. And I'll see you guys hopefully Friday, if not next Wednesday. I'll talk to you later.
Onward Live is sponsored by Emily Harmon Coaching and Consulting. Visit my website, emilyharmon.com, to learn more about me and my coaching programs. I'd love to help you create a life you love living. Remember, every adversity is our own personal university. Sometimes the lessons are difficult, and we must take responsibility for our mistakes. Vulnerability is your superpower. You are lovable and worthy. And we discuss these topics and more because professional is personal. Thank you for joining us and engaging with me and my guest. I look forward to seeing you next time.